street lights to headlines, culture and class. Craig breaks it down, future, present, and past. This is the world. Pop talk, real life, all in between. From the couch to the culture, the heart of the scene. Craig's got the mic, now let's talk, feel, and drink.
You're now tuned in to the world according to Craig, where culture meets real talk. Let's get into
This
it.
is the world.
What's good, world? Welcome back. Today's episode, this one's for anybody who's ever felt like they're behind. Like life didn't go according to plan. Like you had a timeline, and life said, nah, not today. Today, we're going to call this episode Delayed But Not Denied. Because at the time of this recording goes worldwide, I would graduate from Tarleton State with my bachelor's in social work, but it didn't happen when I thought it would. You see, in my head, I had everything mapped out. Graduate on time, walk the stage when my daughter graduates, by about 2 weeks, of course. That was the goal. I could see it. The pictures, the moment, the pride, like everything lined up perfectly. Then boom, life stepped in like, yeah, about that. Because life doesn't respect your timeline. It doesn't check your planner. It don't care about your vision board. Life just starts lifing. And I had to face that reality head on. See, I work full time as a caseworker. And like I said in the first episode, I'm not famous, not verified. I'm not one of those social media gurus telling you, chase for your dreams, while they're already sitting millions. Nah, that ain't me. I'm a 9 to 5 guy. I clock in, I clock out. I deal with real people, real problems, real situations every single day. And let me tell you something. This kind of work, it doesn't just stay at work. It follows you home. It sits in your thoughts. It shows up when you're trying to relax. Because when you care about what you do, you carry it with you. But at the same time, bills still got to get paid. Responsibilities don't pause. Just you have, just because you have goals. Life doesn't say, hey, Craig, go ahead, chase your degree. We'll hold everything else on, we'll hold everything down for you? Nah, it's the opposite. Everything speeds up. So now you're juggling work, school, family, mental health, expectations, your expectations. You're trying not to drop anything, but let's be real. Sometimes something does drop. And for me, that moment came when it was time to lock in for my internship. Because on paper, internships do sound simple. Just go get some experience, complete your hours, finish strong. But what they don't tell you is internships don't always care about your work schedule. They don't ask, hey, do you have a full time job? Or ask, hey, how are you going to balance this out? Most of them are built for people who have flexibility or support or time that just isn't stretched thin. And I was sitting there thinking, how am I going to do this? Like, seriously, how do you work a full time job that demands your energy, then turn around and give meaningful time, presence, and effort to an internship that's also asking for your best? Because let's be clear, I wasn't trying to just get through it. I wanted to learn. I wanted to grow. I wanted to show up the right way. But in reality was like, you might have to make a choice. And that's where it got heavy. Because the choice wasn't about school. It wasn't about work. It was about my identity. It was about being a provider, being a father. It was about being a husband. It was about being a man who always kept his word, even when it's not hard. And that's when I realized something nobody really talks about. Sometimes the delay isn't a failure. It's a reflection of everything you're carrying. Let that sit for a second. Because we live in a world that celebrates speed. Ooh, graduate early. Ooh, finish fast. Ooh, get there first. But nobody really honors the people who are out there taking the long road because they have no other option. People like us, we're not just chasing dreams, we're balancing survival and purpose at the same time. And that's a different kind of pressure. There are moments where I question everything like, am I falling behind? Am I screwing this up? Did I plan this wrong? But I had to give myself a reality check because, you can say you're behind, but you're still moving. How can you call it failure when you're still showing up every single day? And that's when my mindset started to shift. Instead of saying I'm late, I started saying, hey, I'm still on the way. Instead of saying, I didn't, man, this didn't go as planned, but I started saying, hey, this is just a different route. And that route pushed my graduation date back a year, but hey, I'm good. That moment I pictured, seeing graduating before my daughter, to show her that she had at least one parent with a college degree, didn't happen the way I imagined. I'm not gonna lie, that hit me hard because that just wasn't a goal. That was personal. Like in the words of Michael Jordan, I took that personally. But you know what I realized? My daughter didn't need a perfect timeline from me. She needed consistency. She needed effort. She needed to see what it looks like to keep going, driving on, even when things don't line up perfectly. Oh, because I know she's gonna be graduating in a couple weeks. She's gonna be facing her own demons like this, her own detours, her own delays. And when that moment comes, I want her to remember that version of her dad. The one who didn't quit, the one who adapted, the one who adjusted, the one who kept pushing, even when the plan changed. So, yeah, internships didn't care about my schedule, life didn't care about my timeline. But I decided I wasn't going to let that be the reason I stopped. I just had to find another way. And that's where my real story begins. Let's talk about something real. A lot of programs expect you to just, figure it out. Like there's this unspoken assumption that everybody's starting from the same place, that everybody has the same time, the same support, the same flexibility. But what they don't see is that you have a job, you got people depending on you, you got responsibilities. Not the light kind of responsibilities, neither. I'm talking real life responsibilities like rent, bills, groceries, showing up for your kids' school programs and softball games, showing up for your people, showing up for yourself on days that you don't even feel like you're you. So now you're stuck in between, do I chase my future or maintain my present? And right there, that's a different kind of pressure because it's not loud. It's not something people post about every day. It's not something that gets celebrated, but it does get heavy. It gets heavy because either choice comes with a cost. If you lean too hard into your future, you might risk your stability right now. If you focus too much on maintaining your present, you might delay the very thing you're working toward. And nobody really prepares you for that mental tug of war. Just because from the outside it looks simple, go to school, just complete your internship, just finish. But in the inside, it feels like you're splitting yourself in half. You're leaving work mentally exhausted, than showing up academically sharp. You're giving your energy to your responsibilities, than trying to find something left over for your dreams. And some days, there ain't nothing left. And that's the part people don't see. They see the enrollment, they see the major or minor, and they see the goal. But they don't see the late nights. They don't see the sacrifices. They don't see the quiet moments where you're sitting there thinking, how am I keep doing this? I'm gonna be real with you. There are moments I felt like I was being forced to choose between being responsible and feeling ambitious. Think about that. Like those two things aren't supposed to go together. Like you can't be somebody who handles their business and chasing something bigger at the same time. But that's the box a lot of people get put in. Especially when you don't come from a place where things are already set up for you. Especially when you don't have that luxury of just pausing life. Because some people can afford to say, I'm going to focus on school full time. But others, that's not reality. For some of us, if we don't work, things don't move. If we don't show up, things just fall apart. So when the program says, just figure it out, what they're gonna really saying is, figure it out without us adjusting anything. And that's where the disconnect is. Because it's not about ability, it's about access. Let me say that again. It's not about ability, it's about access. It's not about whether you're capable, it's about whether you have the opportunity to apply that capability without everything else collapsing. Access to flexible schedules, access to understanding supervisors, access to internships that realize they recognize real life circumstances. Because talent is everywhere, drive is everywhere, potential is everywhere. But access, that's not distributed the same. And that's why people look like they're ahead of others, look like they're behind. But the truth is, they're just playing with different resources. And once I understood that, something shifted in me. I stopped being so hard on myself. I stopped comparing my timeline to people who weren't carrying what I was carrying. I stopped seeing my situation as a weakness and started something that recognized it as weight I was strong enough to hold. Because think about it. If you can work a full time job, support your responsibilities, and still chase a degree, that's not failure. That's resilience. That's discipline. Man, that's grit in real time. We don't always label it that way. We label it as taking too long, or falling behind, or not doing enough. And that's backwards. Because truth is, people in this position, we're doing more than enough. We're just doing it under pressure. So, yeah, that question, do I chase my future or maintain my present? That's not just a question, that's a crossroads. And for a lot of us, the answer isn't choosing one or the other. It's figuring out how to carry both, even when it feels impossible. And that's where growth really happens. Not because everything's lined up perfectly, but when you're in the middle of the storm and you decide to move forward anyway, because at the end of the day, this isn't just about a degree. This isn't about checking a box. This is about building a life that makes sense for you. Even if the path doesn't look like everyone else's, and if nobody told you this before, man, I'm going to tell you right now, there's nothing wrong with taking a long way when you're carrying more than most.
Something. Here's what I learned. You gotta advocate for yourself. I'm not saying that lightly because a lot of us that don't come natural. We're all taught just to follow the process, do what we're told, stay in line, don't ask too many questions. But in real life, yeah, it can humble you real quick and show you, hey, if you don't speak up for yourself, you can definitely get overlooked. Not because people are intentionally trying to ignore you, but because systems are built to move forward, not necessarily to stop and adjust to everyday situations. So if you don't say nothing, nothing gonna change. Nobody gonna fight for you or your situation like you will. Nobody don't know how your day is. Nobody feels the pressure you do when you get up, hear that alarm go off early in the morning, and you're already tired as balls. Nobody sees the mental load you're carrying, trying to hold yourself together and everything else. So at some point, you gotta find your voice. And for me, that meant doing a lot of things I wasn't comfortable doing. Man, I had to ask questions. I had to push for flexibility. Man, I had to look for placements that made sense for my life. And when I say ask questions, I don't mean just one email calling it a day. I'm talking about real conversations. Hey, is there anything flexible in schedule? Is there any option for evenings and weekends? Is there any way that can work alongside my job? Because closed mouths don't get fed. And I had to learn that the hard way. Then came push for flexibility. And let's be honest, that part felt uncomfortable because when you're just used to accepting what's given, advocating can feel like you're asking for too much, like you're being difficult, like you're stepping out of line. But I had to shift my mindset. I wasn't asking for special treatment. I was asking for a fair opportunity to succeed. There's a difference. And once I started seeing it that way, I stopped shrinking in those conversations, you know? I started standing in them. And then came the big spark. Looking for places that made sense in my life. Not just what looked good on paper. Not just the ones everyone else was chasing. Not just the ones that sounded impressive when you say it out loud. Because it's easy to get caught up in what looks right. Oh, that placement sounds prestigious. Oh, that's going to look great on my resume, but does it fit your reality? Really? Will it break you? You'll be stretched. You'll be stretched thin. And then you'll be resenting the very thing you worked hard to get into. I wasn't going to do that. I needed something that aligned with my life. Something that respected the fact that I'm already carrying a full load. Something that showed me that I still show up as a worker, a father, a student without losing myself in the process. And that search, man, it wasn't quick. It took at least 2 years. It took patience. It took moments like, it's going to come together, but I stayed with it. I stayed consistent. I asked, I kept looking, I pushed, and eventually they found something for me. Now, let's be clear. Not perfect. It wasn't a dream scenario I originally had in my head, but it was possible. And sometimes possible is enough. And sometimes really isn't perfection. It's alignment. And find something that allows you to keep moving forward without everything else falling apart. And for me, I didn't take that lightly because I truly believe the opportunity came through the process of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Because there are too many moments where things could have fallen through and somehow they didn't. Too many times where doors could have stayed closed and one opened just enough. And it taught me something deeper. Advocacy is important, yes. Effort is important, yes. But faith will carry you through parts that you can't control. Because there's only so much you can do on your own. Then at some point, you're trusting everything you've been working towards. It's going to meet halfway. And when it does, you'll appreciate it differently. Because you know what it took to get there. You know the conversations, the doubts, the late nights, the moments you almost gave up. So when something finally aligns, even if it's not perfect and it hits different, it feels earned. It feels real. And it reminds you, you don't need anything lined up perfectly. You just need one opportunity that fits and the courage to keep going until you find it. So if you're in that space right now, trying to figure out, feeling stuck between what you need to do and what you want to do, hear me when I say this. Speak up. Ask questions. Push for what makes sense in your life. Because your situation is valid. Your responsibilities are real. And your path, it doesn't have to look like anyone else's to still get to where you're supposed to be. I'm going to keep it real with y'all. Balance of work, school, and life, that's pressure for real. There are days I was coming home from work, finishing up classwork, being stressed, tired, just trying to keep it all together. That's why I started paying attention to the little things, like comfort. That's how I came across Hypernatural. For real, this does mean something to me, because it's one of my first sponsors on the podcast ever. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm just telling you what helped me. They got this cooling fabric that actually keeps you comfortable when you're moving around all day and when you're juggling everything. That matters. If you want to check them out, go to hypernaturalstyle.com. Use the code Craig26, 20% off. And yeah, you supporting them means you're supporting me too. That's hypernaturalstyle.com. Use the code Craig26 for 20% off your order. Say this for anybody listening. Just because it didn't happen when you planned it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. I need you to really hear that because we live in a world where everything feels like a race. Like I said, everybody's supposed to graduate early, finish fast, did it in record time. Don't get me wrong. Kudos to them. For real. That's accomplishment. But they don't show the struggle, the setbacks, the sacrifices. They don't show the nights that they questioned everything. They don't show the moments they almost quit. They don't show the help that they had behind the scenes. I'm sorry. And they definitely don't show what they didn't have to carry. See, social media will have you think you're behind, but in reality, just on a different path. But comparison will mess with your mind if you let it. You'll start asking yourself, why not me? Why is it taking me longer? What did I do wrong? And that's a dangerous place to sit in. Because now you're measuring real life against somebody else's highlight reel. And that ain't a fair fight. Everybody's journey comes with different weight. Some people are running with nothing on their back. Others, they carry responsibilities, pressure, expectations, real life situations that don't just disappear, you know? Sorry. So, of course, it looks different. Of course, it takes longer. But longer doesn't mean lesser. Let me say it again. Longer does not mean lesser. Because what you're building right now, it's not just about speed. It's about substance. It's about who you're becoming in the process. Yeah, my journey took a little bit longer than expected. And there are times I didn't like that. There are moments I felt like I should have been further along. Moments where I had to sit with disappointment. Moments where I had to explain, nah, I ain't done yet. That's all. It's not easy. For real. Especially when people expect you to be at a certain place at by a certain time. Especially when you're expected to do that for yourself. But looking back now, I ain't trained that. Because the longer road, it did something to me. It made me more patient. It made me more focused. It made me understand what it really takes to earn something, not just reach it. It built something in me that speed could never do. Because when things come fast, you don't fully appreciate them. But when you had to fight for it, and you had to adjust, sacrifice, keep on going when it didn't feel good, that hits different. That stays with you. It shapes you. My journey took longer, but it made me passionate and resilient. It gave me a deep perspective. It taught me how to keep showing up, even when things didn't look like they were working out. It taught me to stay focused and committed, even when the timeline changed. But most importantly, it taught me that the delay is not denial. Just because it didn't happen when you wanted it, doesn't mean it's not meant for you. Sometimes it's just being prepared. Sometimes it's just time and lining up with who you're becoming. Because imagine everything you wanted before you were ready to handle it. That can definitely break you. So sometimes the delay is protection, it's preparation, it's positioning. And when you finally get there, you're not just excited, you're ready. So if you're listening to me right now, you feel like you're behind, like things ain't going fast enough, like your plan didn't go all the way you thought it should, shift your perspective. You're not behind, you're in process. You're not late, you're being built. And your story, it's not defined by how fast you're going. It's defined by the fact that you didn't quit. So take your time. Make some adjustments when you need to. Keep going even if it's uncomfortable. I don't care. Because what's meant for you, it's still coming. And when it does, it's gonna make sense. Trust me. It's gonna make sense why it didn't happen the other way. Stay sharp. Stay keen. Keep your mind open and your dream supreme. I gotta tell you something. When life does get heavy, you do gotta create moments to breathe. For myself, It's just been sitting down, grabbing a good bite to eat, decompress, think about the things that meant best to me. So I tried out Big Fork Brands one night, and what just started as grabbing some food turned to a moment of peace for me and my family. That reset, man, I definitely needed that. They got bacon sausage, jerky, sauces, bold, real flavor. So if you want to check them out, go to bigforkbrands.com. Use the code Craig26 for 20% off. That's bigforkbrands.com. Use the code Craig26 for 20% off your order. Trust me, you'll enjoy it. Another thing that I definitely learned, you don't need to carry everything. Stress, doubt, comparison. You just gotta let some of that go. Even in my day-to-day life, I started simplifying things. Just things that make everything easy for me with school, work, and whatnot. Another place I came up across was Steel Union, minimalist wallets, clean everyday carry. And it hit to me. We hold on to too much. Sometimes success is just lightening the load. So if you want to check them out, go to distillunion.com. That's DISTILUNION.com. Use the code Craig26 for 20% off. You'll be glad. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for that quick culture, quick hit for the week. Let's get real quick. We were created where cultures where speed equals process. If it didn't happen so fast, people start questioning it. They start doubting it. They start counting you out. That ain't the truth. That's pressure. Because here in this world right now, delayed does not mean denied. And a lot of people need to hear that. Just because it didn't happen when you planned it, doesn't mean it's not going to happen at all. But when we forget about that, we rush. We force things. We try to catch up on timelines that were never meant for us. And all that does is just pull you out of your focus. Because not everything is meant to happen so fast. They're meant to be built. They require growth. Some things do need time to develop the right way. Delayed, not denied. Because everything showed up at that moment when you wanted it. Would you even be ready? Would you have that mindset, that discipline, the patience to sustain it? That delay is going to do something in you. Even when it feels like nothing's happening, something is. You're being developed. You're strengthening yourself. You learn how to stay committed when it's slow, when it's quiet, when nobody's cheering for you. That's where consistency comes in. Because consistency beats speed every time. Anybody can move fast for a moment, but can you stay locked in when progress isn't obvious? That's what carries you through the delay. You don't need to rush your response because what's meant for you isn't going to miss you. It might take longer, it might look different. It might not match the timeline you had in your head, but it's still yours. Delayed, not denied. So if you're in that season right now, feeling like you got held back, don't quit. Don't rush. Stay focused, stay committed. Because that's where you're building the delay. That's what's preparing you for everything you've been asking for. So, yeah, my graduation's delayed for a year. Goals were delayed. My journey took a little bit longer than I expected. Not gonna sugarcoat or nothing. There are times that made me feel hurt. Times where I had to sit with that reality. Times I had to adjust my expectations. And recently I had to watch other people celebrate accomplishments that I thought I'd be doing at the same time with them. And it can mess with you if you let it. Because now it's not about the goal anymore. It's about what you thought it was supposed to look like. But here's my truth. I had to learn it the hard way. Just because timeline changed doesn't mean the destination did. But guess what? I'm still going to cross that finish line. And it's going to hit different now. Because this isn't just about walking across the stage. It's not about earning a degree. It's about the hard work, the sacrifice, the time that it took to get to that point. It's about the early mornings when I feel like I didn't want to get up. The long days that I had to balance work, school, and my life. There was moments that I had to choose discipline over being comfortable. This is about the times I left behind, but I kept moving anyway. It's about the pressure I carried, and I didn't drop pressure. And when you go through all that, when you really earn something like that, it means a lot more because you knew the cost. You knew the sacrifice. You knew that the nights where nobody saw you push it through. You knew the moments that were quitting would be easier, but you didn't quit. And that's what people don't always understand about a delayed journey. They see the end result, but they don't see the process behind it. They don't see the growth that happens. Because this version of me, the one that's about to cross that finish line next year, he ain't the same guy who started. He's more patient, focused. He knows what it means to commit to something, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it doesn't go my way, even when it takes longer than I planned. And that's the part I wouldn't trade because, yeah, I could finish faster if I didn't have been this prepared. I wouldn't have had this mindset. I wouldn't have built this level of resilience. And that truly matters. Because life after the finish line, it's going to require all that. So when I walk across that stage, it's not just a celebration, it's a statement. A statement that says, I ain't quit. I adapted. I adjusted. I kept going when it got hard. And that means more than any timeline could ever. So if you're listening to this and your journey isn't going the way you planned, if things got delayed, if goals got pushed back, I need you to understand something. You're not on track. You're just taking a different route. And that route is building something in you, something real, something lasting, something that speed can never give you. So yeah, my journey did take a little longer, but I am still crossing that finish line. And when I do, I'm not just proud of the result. I'm proud of the process. Stay sharp, stay seen, keep your mind open and your dreams supreme. To anybody out there, you're not behind. You're building. And when your moment comes, it's gonna be hit different. This is the world born the grave. Hit my goodbye music, baby.